if Evan Kelp turns into Bucky Barnes in episode 3. Best show on television.
Yep,
Emmys,
100%.
Emmys, Emmys. Welcome to the Dropout Drop-In. I'm producer Liz.
And I'm Jordan, and we're talking Miss Meg, baby. You got episode 2'd.
We got episode 2'd as promised by Abria. Can you freaking believe it?
I am in shock. Still. Much like Evan Kelmp, I am in shock.
Let's roll the Abria dice, and whatever we land on, let's share our favorite moment from the episode that corresponds with that number. How's that sound? Okay,
Yep.
We got, from the magical Abria dice, we got a strong 5.
Ooh.
What was your favorite natural 5 on the die from episode 2?
I'm going to cheat and say it's the 5 characters we met. Is that how many came out and met them when they fought the salamanders? It's somewhere in that number. I think it might have been 5. I almost got up to take, I rewound and was going to take a picture of Danielle's heart eyes at the description of Derek. I was like, this is the find you someone who looks at you the way Danielle thinks about Derek, a fictional character Abria Iyengar is describing. So good. I love that everyone is just like, pretty hot on Riz Island, which I'm sure we'll get into the Sky Smith of it all. Incredible.
For sure. I don't think anyone writes an NPC potential love interest like Abria Iyengar writes an NPC potential love interest, honestly. Iconic. My 5 from the episode is when Lou was the first to go an initiative against the salamanders and was like this huge dramatic thing that he wanted to do. And Abria was like, no, let's break that down. We will get into all the wordings and above the table talk later in the episode, but for now, let's talk about the misfits of this episode, our main cast. One of the things I loved about this week's episode that we talked about last week, Jordan, was how much of the mystery of each of these characters' arcs is unfolding and like their ideals that they've set out to play this season within, and we saw much more of that from each of the 4. Was there anything that stuck out to you, maybe like a reveal or a moment about one of our 4 main characters that really spoke to you based on what we were hoping to see out of last week?
I don't know if I don't think we talked about it last week, but I think it is. Weirdly enough, it's the scars of Evan Kelmp, of just like the carabiner of it all, of like, yeah, Evan's been up to some bad stuff in the last 3 years. He has just gone full magic mercenary, which is a delightful dip into his backstory. So much fun.
Do you think Evan Kelp is Brennan Lee Mulligan's best Dimension 20 character?
Ooh, boy.
It seems like a lot of the internet is deeply in love with this troublesome man.
Yeah, if I say yes, I think KP Hobb fans are going to come for me. But let's do it. Let's say, yeah, it's Evan Kelmp, the original. Is he the original worst name haver? Because obviously we got KP after. I'm trying to think if Abraham Hermbler was before or after Evan Kelmp. Get in the comments. Let me know.
I love the way that there's half the internet saying Evan Kelp can do no wrong, and then Evan Kelp immediately is like, no, I was fully following people onto buses and having like Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Seven Rings style fights on public transit in Brittain.
So good.
Yeah.
And obviously we did get, I guess that will be in magic, but Evan did do some wrong trying to use magic and fix a shirt this episode.
One of the more endearing, like, act first, think later moments from Evan and from Brennan, which I really respected the hell out of. Like, I love when the dice match the energy in the room. Like, if he had rolled perfectly, I'd be like, oh shit, that actually sucks. It doesn't feel real in this moment. But no, the dice were like, I got you. Like, we're going to give you the shittiest rolls ever, and you will not be doing this one, bud.
Yeah. Truly, like, we got 2 beautiful moments sort of mirroring each other of Evan and the shirt while the 3 of them are having a conversation that I know you want to talk about because it's about exes and one specific ex, but then also mirrored with Evan having his conversation with Sam as Kay is setting up surgery seems like the wrong word based on the results, but attempted surgery.
Kay literally has not thought once so far in this season, and
Nope.
I'm obsessed with that choice from Erica. Like,
Yep.
there is no chain of logic that you can follow Kay down because Kay simply is not thinking. Kay is acting and acting and acting and acting, and so deeply stuck in like chronically online behaviors where you're fully reactionary all of the time. I think this is some of my favorite work from Erica on Dimension 20 because it is so like intricate and yet it comes across so simple in how it's being portrayed. But no, like Kay's deeply characterized in a way that very, very few actors I think could pull off exactly what Erica's doing here.
Yeah. You see the intent, but no thought.
Correct, always. But you also give Kay a lot of credit in the same moments for like trying their best and like trying to come through for the team. But like, no, there's truly nothing happening. It's just
It was a
fine.
very sweet intent with no thought behind it.
Love it. I love it. Let's talk about like Abria has made a mess out of these 20-somethings with like our little awkward situation with Evan and Erica venturing into like, oh my God, you're bleeding territory. I'm like, we're on episode 2 and you've got these two like all up and mixed up.
Yeah.
I love it. I love the drama and the mess of Kay and Evan. It's hilarious to me.
I mean, we started in the perfect spot with You're Looking Well in episode 1, and we have just made it even better in You're Bleeding, and I Can Fix Him in episode 2. Now in the literal sense instead of the figurative sense. Yeah. Oh,
I'm
boy.
obsessed. And Abria's just indulging it. No one likes drama and mess on Dimension 20 more than Abria Iyengar, I personally think. I'm
Yeah,
here for
I
it.
think that. I feel like Allie Beardsley might give her a run for her money, but like,
So
it's
true.
a 1-2 punch for sure. Like any given moment, the other has leapfrogged, and that is probably because I am thinking about the moment in Unsleeping City where Allie was like, "I'm gonna punch the devil in the face" or whatever.
So true.
Yeah.
So true.
And Brennan's like, hey, maybe not great. I will say, to Allie's credit, I did not get the same vibe that half the table got of, like, this might not be a great idea. I was like, this seems really dangerous, but not like a nat 20 or you're dead thing. But, because this is what I was going to say about the arm set. I did get the warnings there. I understood, and everyone understood, this isn't going to work. You are making a terrible choice. And it was magic.
Let's talk about Sam this episode because Sam made a lot of really good choices, but the one that has kept me up at night, Danielle Radford, you making it permanent Miss Meg lore that Sam Brittain dated Timothy Chalamet during the Wonka promo era and got the ick from him trying to use magic.
It was. As someone who has watched the first 20 or so minutes of Wonka and stopped because it was violently repulsive, I think that's a fair description of the movie. Like, I couldn't have loved that vibe because obviously you're really confident when she says she's talking. I think she calls him. Does she call him Timmy or Tim? Timmy. You're like, I'm like 75% it's Chalamet, and then she says Wonka, and you're like, God, it's so much better now. Like, it's so much better. Like, it's such a great joke because I'm like, it's got to be Timothy Chalamet. Who else could she possibly be talking about? And then she says Wonka, and you're like, nope, yep, I was right. It was Timothy Chalamet. It was not Timmy Danza, which was one of my other favorite moments of the episode. Of just like, well, Tony Danza has a son. He's probably named Timmy Danza.
I thought for sure they were going to make Timothy Chalamet canonically Tony Danza's son. I thought that's where that chain was going to go, but that's where the logic was laid this episode was, no, we're going to stick to the actual facts that they are not biologically father and son, and Timothy Chalamet has tried and failed at using magic in this world.
Using that specifically to promote Wonka.
Exactly. I can't, truly. I've never heard a joke so written for me in my life. It was too good. I want to see how many other X's we can pull from our world into Miss Meg lore. So I'm going to make my first wildly speculative prediction for the rest of the season. I would like Sam Brittain to date, in no particular order, Mike Feist, Austin Butler, Jarrell Jerome, and let me think of a few more.
I only know who one of those people is so far, so...
Okay, we'll workshop.
Do you want to guess which one?
Probably Austin Butler.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I want that as you're thinking of your last. I want that and that to be the explanation. He tried to do magic to make the Elvis voice, and that is why he can't stop doing it now.
Goodbye. Jordan! You can't say things like that to me on this show. You can't.
The re-entry behind your table was truly fantastic.
I can't. You know what? That's the clip that's going on TikTok now after this. If you're not subscribed already and you enjoyed that as much as I did, please do. Lots more to come.
Hit the like button.
Have you seen If Beale Street Could Talk? Have you seen that movie? Stephen James would be an excellent X for Sam Brittain. I
also don't know who that is.
Okay. We will work on that. Shamir Anderson, another excellent X for Sam Brittain to have. No. Okay.
Nope.
We will educate Jordan on next week's episode of Dropout Drop-In.
Here's where people will get in the comments. They're going to be so mad I don't know who handsome men are. I'm sorry. I'm 41 years old. And while I am deeply online, not in the right ways.
Speaking of handsome people on television, let's talk about Lou Wilson. What do you think about that for a transition?
Smooth as silk.
Smooth as silk?
Yeah.
I loved some of the choices that Lou made this episode. Let my microphone stand up so I can fix my hair. I loved some of the choices that Lou made this episode, but particularly the resurgence of the nickname and how important nicknames are in this world.
Yeah,
incredible.
It's one of those. You just get those beautiful moments. Like you see them on. It was like the most recent Make Some Noise. Yeah, like that. And like they talk about Abraham Lincoln so much, and then somehow the last prompt is Lincoln, like an Abraham Lincoln convention, and you're like, just magic has worked itself into our universe in such a beautiful way. And it's exactly that with Lou giving nicknames, only to find out how incredibly important like names and nicknames are in this place. Is just like, yeah, this is great. It's
brilliant.
Perfect. Yeah. It's just they're on the same page as it's for my Worlds Beyond Number listeners. There is a moment where Brennan ends an episode because Lou takes a called shot and just wrecks Brennan's world, and Brennan's like, and we're ending the episode here because of that. And it's amazing.
I would love to be nicknamed by Lou Wilson because I haven't had many strong nicknames in my life other than the one that's permanently taken over my brand, which is Liz. I don't really consider Liz a nickname, though, so much as an abbreviation. Have you had any strong nicknames in your, I guess, Dr. Op-Out is more of a handle than it is a nickname.
Yeah, it's definitely more of a handle and self-imposed. No one has ever said that to my face. This is going to be too long of a story, so just here's the hard edit.
Buckle up.
So obviously, like Jordo, classic nickname, especially because my name is Jordon. So like, if you chop the N off, like it becomes Jordo. In a comedy group that I am a active participant in locally here in Austin, as like a fan, not like comedian. There are several Jordans, and I'll spare the part of how this came to be. But like we pitch movies to get mocked, Mystery Science Theater 3000 style. But like sometimes the audience comes up and is like, I brought, oh God, what was the last one? First Kid with Sinbad. and it was a VHS night. I had someone brought it for me, but I had it was still in like the Blockbuster sticker was still on it. Like it had like the price tag from Blockbuster on the back. It was like it was the perfect way to watch that movie would be to watch a Blockbuster VHS of it. But because there were several Jordans, I became known as Classic Jordo because I was the first Jordan in the group, and it also was because periodically I say obnoxious things, and then it became Classic Jordo. So it is a double nickname. And so then there is there's a Jordu, I know, as our Joker fans out there are, I'm sure, going to appreciate today. And then I don't remember what third Jordan's nickname is. Anyway, we each have nicknames. He may be other Jordan. I'm not sure, but yeah, mine is a double.
If you don't think Classic Jordo has entered my brain permanently in how we do this podcast together, you are mistaken, my friend. Get in the comments for Classic Jordo, everybody. That's my mission.
The new dream is the next time I do a Worlds Beyond Number interview, I get to Lou Wilson will be part of it, and I demand he give me a nickname. So that's my new dream.
There we go. I love it. Well, there's time for everything, right?
Oh, Lou Wilson owes me a video. I should change my request to him giving me a nickname. That's what I should do. Because I was one of those 100 people that followed him on SoundCloud.
Amazing. Truly incredible work we've done here today. I love. Oh my God. Well, let's wrap the Misfits conversation there and move over to some of the magic from this week's episode. Was there anything from this week's production that stood out to you? Pretty magical.
Besides the end. Or are we going to jump straight to it?
We can jump straight. I'm leaving the door open to you. You pick the direction.
Look, an arm exploded. Exploded on a DC 40 check in a game that, at best, you're rolling a D20. So you would need, and I obviously think you're going to roll your magic and add to it, but you would need to almost certainly blow up a D20 to even get close to being able to hit it. A perfect DC set by Abria for so many warnings given about what Kay was trying to do. And I love, look, we talked about it last week that they were going to take big swings and everyone at the table trusts each other and a lesser table wouldn't have been able to handle it. I love that, you knew Brennan wasn't going to be mad. Literally, they could have killed Evan and Brennan wouldn't have been mad. Brennan would have been like, yeah, no, that was the right choice. We've made the right storytelling decision. And yeah, it was perfect. I can't wait to see the outcome of what happened. I can't wait for the end of that scene to start next week. I hope we start in a flashback so that everyone has to suffer just a little bit extra before we find out what has happened to Evan.
I want to start in a flashback to something from Evan's 3 years alone thinking about Kay. Just something so tragic and sad and monologue-y and really gets us to the depth of what Evan's been going through, and then hard cut from that emotional place to Evan trusting Kay with his life and his arm freaking exploding.
Oh, so good.
We're about to get episode 3'd.
Yeah. Brennan putting the arm on the shoulder. You're into Never After. You've been episode 3'd now. Brennan putting his arm on Danielle's shoulder, and then the classic Brennan scream, and then having to do this instead of this, and the adventuring. Also good.
I also hope one of my big predictions for the rest of the season is I want Lou Wilson's melody to just grow and have more and more layers added to it as we go episode by episode. I hope the audio that we heard in episode 2 of his vocal layering is added to in episode 3, and then that's added to in episode 4 till we have an absolute monstrosity by the end of episode 11.
1,000,000%. It's the death counter, Jacob Wysocki death counter, but it's Lou Wilson voice. I want it for the rest of the season.
What a great ad by Lou. What an awesome ad.
So good. They don't miss. It's a too good of a table.
Truly, this is what happens when you have. I've been thinking about this a lot. Why Dimension 20 is such compelling television for someone that watches a lot of television professionally to talk about it and interview about it, but it really is the quality of the storytelling with the stakes of improv. They do it like no one else does. And this table specifically, you have a DM at their best in both improv, trust around the table and knowing how to push buttons and pull things out of other character actors, and like an incredibly playful but also restrictive environment to like put those people within. You have 4 people that are taking risk after risk every single time it's their turn to speak. You have people like Danielle that are so dynamic between like how far is too far to push charming, and then how do you bring it back to something so severely empathetic to a character that is hard to empathize with. You have people as drastic as Evan Kelmp, who are so tragic and terrible, but also the most endearing people at the table. You have someone like Lou, who I loved that bit about like the leadership and how leadership is like covering for people and not just like lead, like, so brilliant. And you could see it on Lou's face that it was almost like a compliment that ran too deep. He was like, did you see what I saw there? He was almost like, no, stop commenting on how good that move was. And then you have Erica, who's like pulling up the rear with that like mystery long game to unpack kind of paralysis that Kay is in. It's too freaking good.
It is too good. Also, hugest like shout out all the roses to Abria for the track of your ideals, whatever I don't, is that what they called it? Your
your ideal track.
You're like so smart, such a good incorporation, and Team Brennan 100%. I want someone judging my character that isn't me to be like, yes, you've met your ideal, or you've expanded, like, or you failed at it and you need to rethink it. Like, I love that it is not a punishment to miss, and yet it is still a reward to succeed. Like, she's too good. She's too good. She's too good. Abria, you're too freaking good at this. Just kidding. Please make television forever. No, it's so exciting. I loved how they clearly submitted all of them separately, right? And then like didn't know what each other had picked. It seems like the pre-season work that was done here, I don't know what it was, but I would love to have that unpacked. If we ever get Abria to sit down with us, that's what I want to know, is how lengthy was that process and how much did it change maybe what the plans were for the season, because it feels like it's having severe implications on how the story is moving. Did you notice Brennan called it a 10-episode season in the adventuring party? And I was like, yeah, I had already like I don't remember, I think I talked to Derek Christensen about it, where I was like, it was supposed to be 10, right? And they were like, it needed to be 11. And I was like, okay, all right. Like, I know you won't tell me, like, what happens that, like, causes, but, like, just, like, huge shout out to Dimension 20, because adding a full episode, like, presumably another day of recording, I would guess, because you know how TV production works. They don't typically have an extra 3-4 hours built into a schedule that they could knock at the end of the day because of overtime rules. Like, they're almost certainly were like, no, we need, like, at some point in this season, we're going to hit a point where they're like, we're going to need to add a day on to this shoot, and it is worth it to pay everybody to come in and do that because it's going to help the story rather than rush it. And that's fantastic television.
The budget implications alone of choosing to make that choice, unfucking believable, and so rare. And rare doesn't feel like a strong enough word for how
so unique.
So here it is.
That is not a thing that happens. Like, it's just not.
Let's just lay it all out. Let's just lay it all out for those that want to really like think through this logic with us. When you make a choice to add an episode of television, it's exactly what you said. It's scheduling. It's, adding more days to your shoot. It's all these different things. It's paying your cast. Sure, it's paying your crew, everyone that shoots the episode for another shoot's worth of work and abiding by union time and rules and overtime. Sure, yes, all of that. You are also paying that in your, even if they own the studio they're renting in and standing up your studio for another day. Rick Perry has crew that travels in and out of set to accommodate shoots. So you're extending potential stay and changing travel and all of those potential implications. You have your post-production budget increasing because you're adding another, not 30 minutes of television, but potentially 2 hours. Who knows how long that final episode is going to be. So another movie's length of editing, art, projections, post, audio, sound.
I mean, presumably at this point you've got 1,000 choruses of Lou Wilson that you're adding on to an 11th episode. Knock on wood that is happening. But yeah.
Correct. Absolutely. Also, and we know how far ahead they do record these, but you are changing your release schedule because now you have an 11 episode window you need to accommodate by. So if you didn't have wiggle room for that in what you were planning on releasing, you then have to find it and change things and push things, or just plan for an extra Buffy week of content, which is, potential for that.
Yeah. I mean, we saw. I mean, Abria said at one point that something about it being Black History Month, and so she was going to allow something. So we can presume that it's shot in February. But yeah, like that means everything you said. Obviously, they have the bit of wiggle room with the live shows that they're just like chunking out when they aren't seeing those weeks. But I am thinking about, okay, does this mean that they were going to do 3 weeks and 3 weeks, probably, of live shows, and instead they did 2 and 4 because they've got this extra week that they're going with Misfits and Magic, which I'm thrilled about, but impacts what's coming in January because everything gets pushed back a week for Dimension 20 now, which is, probably hugely beneficial for them in the long run that they now have like an extra week of not needing a program out because their shooting schedule is so wild. But yeah, I don't know about unheard of. I'm sure there are shows that have done it. I can't think of anything where I've ever heard of anyone talking about we didn't get it and we realized we needed another 2 hours to finish. So I guess technically before the Lord of the Rings started filming, Peter Jackson had originally said what if we did this in 2 movies? And the studio was like, well, it's 3 books. Why don't you do 3 movies? And he was like, okay, we'll do that then. But that was pre-production days. That was not we've started shooting. We're in the adventuring party for episode 2, still talking about how they have, 10 weeks of this. Yeah.
It's much more common in movie production, right? You get into shooting and then you hear about movie production timelines extending and changing and things like that. What I find rare about this is you have an unscripted show. I don't know if Dimension 20 considers itself scripted or unscripted, but I'm going to call it unscripted for the sake of it's about half scripted, half improvised, right? So you only have it laid out so much to say, we have to get to this fight sequence. We have a whole thing built to do this fight sequence or this setting or these projections or this or that. So you have the puzzle pieces and you're going to land there at particular points in time. But how you get there and what you have to add or subtract away from each of those elements, that's the game that Dimension 20 plays in that is different from what other people are doing, even in a way where they're adding their own layers of complexity to every shoot with how much interactivity and high production they bring into that live shoot rather than relying on post. And you kind of heard about that in Fantasy High junior year when they were talking about the Mordred Manor fight with the puzzles and the whole fight that didn't even happen because they rolled perfectly and they just sped through. That whole fight sequence was supposed to be different and was supposed to be found differently, and then it didn't happen and they found their way back to it later in the season. So it's just very interesting, and I think it takes a lot of trust in Abria as the DM at the table to be able to speak up and say to everyone hey, we need to add a whole thing, and then trust back to Abria as the one running the live situation that's happening. Say no, Abria's right. Let's figure out a way to do it, and then paying to do it.
Yeah.
Not even to mention, they still abide by COVID regulations and have all this COVID testing and health and safety that Dropout does on set. So I'm also thinking about that. You're adding a whole other day of potential liability and structure on that end, which is...
I will say this is going to be a beautiful transition. I would guess they don't consider themselves a scripted show because Sky Smith's title is story editor or story something instead of script supervisor, which would be the standard title for someone in their position. And speaking of Sky Smith, giving Brennan the middle finger after cackling with laughter at the cast not laughing at Brennan's joke. Absolutely perfect. Look forward to my next Sky Smith interview. Gonna shoot probably in January, where we'll exclusively talk about giving Brennan the finger. I will get Sky giving the finger on camera so that you can see what it looks like. That is a promise for Off the Dome. Amazing. The exclusive of what it looks like when Sky Smith gives you the finger.
Wow, I'm so excited. Truly one of my favorites. We also have to talk about what Abria said about that moment, which I screenshotted. On the post on Instagram of that moment, Abria commented, "We could have had Sma Guk Gak, were we robbed?" Instead of Riz Guk Gak, we could have had Sma Guk Gak. And honestly, we were robbed. We were robbed.
It's so
in the
funny.
Multiverse.
Yeah.
In the multiverse, Murph plays Sma Guk Gak.
Yeah. Oh, man. All of it's so good. All of it is so good. So I love Brennan's joke falling flat so hard at the table. Hearing the crew laughter at the joke fall flat and Brennan getting up to go scold them for laughing was every bit of it was perfect.
I mean, we want to talk about toxicity on set. Ooh, your executive producer getting up and telling you not to laugh at them. Yeah. No, I'm kidding. I think that's hilarious. It's obviously so not who Brennan is to his crew. So I loved it. I ate it up, honestly. It takes a lot of trust to be able to flip off your executive producer. So it's a really good job security over there at Drop-In, it seems like.
Yep.
You want to speculate wildly about the rest of this season because we did not make our formal season predictions last weeks, aka 3 days ago, recording that we did. So now that we're 2 episodes in, Jordon, where do we go from here?
Oh man, I don't know. I feel like I would have had better speculation last time we recorded because episode 2 changed so much about how, like, I would have been super wrong about everything. But like episode 2 was so wild and so changed everything that I expected this season. Like, that's not even really fair because, like, obviously we knew we were going to get away from the school, right? Like, that was a given. This is not going to be a Harry Potter story, but it's so different, and Abria has made such an interesting world. Even 2 episodes in of just like, they live on a lava flow, and they get around via like pretty simple magic because no one's got wands anymore, and some people are pretty mad at the pilot program about that. Like, all of it's so good. Yeah, I think... Oh, man. All right. I mean, let's just do the easiest speculation. There is going to be some big moral lesson that's coming in the form of a big bad. Because it's Dimension 20 in Abria. How could it not be? It's going to be some brilliant, like, commentary on something in society. That's the worst speculation I've ever given, but that's what I got.
Get in the comments, y'all. Let Classic Jordo know what you think about that. Been waiting to call that back for a minute. No, there's definitely, I have not plotted myself what I think Abria's moral story throughout all of this is. I think that's still to come. I'm very excited for Sam to see her ex in the next episodes. I don't know if there's going to be a rekindling of Felix and Sam. I really hope that Kay and Evan have like a true like fantasy X conversation. If you read like anything in that genre, you know what I'm talking about. Like I really hope that they find like a mature way forward together. But my big speculation for the season is I do think Evan is not making it. I don't think Evan is making it, y'all.
Abria has told us death is an option, so. And
I do think
potentially will have 1 fewer arms for the rest of the season. I don't know how the healing pools work.
No, the healing pools are so funny to me. And when Abria and Erica had that moment of like, oh my God, I was like, yeah, big mood. What a trope to lean into in episode 2. It was so funny. I do think in the words of an author that we all hate and won't name, he's going to sacrifice himself. That's how I feel about Evan Kelp. I think he's going to sacrifice himself. No, he can't. That's what I think Evan's journey is going to be. Like at whatever the cost, he's doing it. I don't know if he'll stay gone though. Maybe there'll be a way to bring him back, but I just feel it in the air. Evan Kelmp, he's gonna go too hard, too fast, too furious.
That's fair. But does Jammer step in the way and lean into his leadership, cover my team? It's who knows? They're all so good. It could be none or all, and it will be perfect no matter what. It's gonna be great. I can't wait.
I can't freaking wait. What a season. I can't wait to talk about episode 3 with you. Now, Jordon, what are you talking about over the next week that's exciting for folks to tune into?
Next week will be Jason D'Amato, the author of many of the Ultimate RPG building series. And then it's going to be Catherine McCafferty from Pretty Gay with Catherine McCafferty, who was recently got engaged to Vic Michaelis at the end of the interview with Vic. So very excited to chat with her. It should be a delight.
Cannot wait. Just adding to your Vic Michaelis lore interviews, truly. It's going to be one for the history books. I've got the same thing I promised you last episode 3 days ago coming out. Just a lot of editing and vlogs to get to y'all in a review of 20-Sided Tavern in New York City that I've been really dwelling on. So, lots to come. And we will see you for, I just lost where we were recording, and that's great. And we're going to stop the episode now. We'll see you next week. All right.
Bye.